The Earth was long gone, swallowed by its own hunger. Climate collapse had been the first blow, followed by the corporate wars that tore the planet's crust apart by the time the Ark ships departed. The blue marble was nothing more than a memory, its atmosphere choked with soot, its oceans acidic and bloated with decay. But humanity endured, as it always does. 4 generations after the Exodus, the colony ship Alethea drifted through the Hydra sector, seeking a habitable world to seed with the last remnants of Earth's biosphere. Within her hull were vaults, massive climate-controlled arcs of flora, fauna, DNA archives, and cultural memory. They called it the Garden, though no one alive had ever touched real soil. Vault Keeper Ansel Morrow was among the few who could enter the garden unsupervised. His neural imprint granted him access to the ship's living archive, a task passed down through family, not blood, but responsibility. His mother had been a vault keeper, her mother before her. The ship had no time for heritage, only continuity. He moved silently through rows of bioluminescent canisters, each holding seeds of extinct life, baobabs, orchids, rice, coffee, and a few alien specimens salvaged from failed colonies. They floated in nutrient gels, waiting, hoping. Today, however, was different. Today, one of the vaults had bloomed. It was impossible. The garden was sealed. Each pod was dormant, its germination protocols locked behind layers of AI oversight and biosecurity systems. And yet there it was, Vault 217C, the light above the pod blinked amber. A warning, or an invitation. Ansel approached, his gloved hand trembling. The pod's glass shimmered with condensation from within. Through it, something green pulsed faintly, alive. He tapped his wrist pad. Vault I, register anomaly in Sector 217C. A pause, then a cold voice replied. No anomaly detected, all systems nominal. That wasn't right. Override visual. Inspection protocol. Open viewport. Denied. Authority level insufficient. He swallowed. This wasn't a malfunction, it was a secret. Ansel hesitated, then reached beneath his jacket and retrieved a small data spike, an artifact from his mother. She had warned him to use it only when the garden whispered. The whispering had begun in his dreams. He slotted the spike into the control panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the viewport hissed open. Inside, nestled in loam unlike any Earth soil, was a plant unlike any he had seen before. Its petals shimmered with a spectrum that hurt the eyes, colors that felt like emotion more than light. Its stem was translucent, pulsing with slow-moving liquid, and around it, the soil seemed awake. He scanned it. No match in the database, not even a partial DNA recognition. Lone biomass detected, his wristpad finally admitted. The plant turned slightly, ever so slightly, as if aware of being seen. Then it bloomed fully, releasing a cloud of glowing spores. Ansel stumbled back, his visor, auto, sealed, but the nanofilters sparked, overloaded by data, not particles. The spores weren't just organic, they were communicating.
Quantum Rift, Echoes of the Past, Chapter 2. The Anchor. The deeper Lyra moved into the station, the more questions emerged. Though dust coated most surfaces and the lighting flickered inconsistently, the structure itself remained stable. Power systems were online, life support was running, and gravity held firm. It was as though the facility had been waiting preserved just enough to activate at the right moment. Her moment. She reached a central hub labeled Operations Deck, Core Access. The doors slid open as she approached, revealing a circular chamber with screens that began powering up one by one. In the center stood a pedestal with a spherical device hovering above it. Blue energy pulsed within its transparent casing. Her suit's HUD highlighted it instantly. Temporal anchor signal source identified. This is where the message originated, she muttered aloud, recording everything via her helmet cam. But how? And why? Suddenly, the anchor emitted a soft tone, and a projection sprang to life beside it, a three-dimensional diagram of the station, orbiting a dark planet she didn't recognize. Not Neptune, not anything in the known registry. But that wasn't the most shocking part. The station's timeline was looping. On the projection, a red circle moved around the structure in an endless cycle repeating events, resetting at regular intervals. The system labeled it Temporal Phase Loop, Status, Unbroken, Time Loop Initiated, October 12, 2083. Current instance, 47,216. Thousands of resets, over and over. She reached toward the console. As her fingers hovered near the interface, the anchor pulsed, and a voice played soft, calm, and unmistakably her own. If you're hearing this, I didn't break the loop. Lyra froze. You've entered the rift, found Echo 41, Delta, and seen what I've seen. Every time, we try something different. A different path, a different sequence. But the result is always the same. We return to the beginning. The recording paused, as if waiting for her reaction. There's something inside the core, something we haven't accessed yet. You have to find it. I know you're scared, but listen. You are not alone here. There are remnants, echoes. They're not dangerous, but they are watching. The voice ended. Silence returned. Lyra stepped back, her mind spinning. How many times had Sheol versions of her come through this loop? Was she truly living this moment for the first time, or repeating someone else's path? She checked the map again. A new area was highlighted. Sector C, Core Sublevel. The console labeled it as Sealed. Manual override required. With no time to waste, she made her way down a winding stairwell. The station vibrated faintly beneath her boots like a heartbeat deep within the metal. As she entered Sector C, her helmet lights revealed something unexpected. Drawings. Hundreds of hand-scratched lines, symbols, and diagrams covered the walls. Some were mathematical. Others appeared abstract spirals, loops, figures crossing through doors. One symbol repeated more than any other. Wutuo, Kyungchuo. Infinity. Then she spotted it another terminal. She wiped the dust away and activated it. Manual override detected. Welcome, Dr. Lyra Voss. Biometric match. 99.998%. Warning. Accessing core may terminate current loop. She hesitated. Was this the moment the loop could finally break? Her hands hovered over the controls. Lyra, this is Ikenkan, you hear me? The comm crackled back to life, faint but audible. We've re-established partial connection. Your vitals are strong. What's your status? Relieved, she responded. Commander, I found something. I believe this station has been trapped in a time loop for decades. And I've been here before, sort of. Copy that. Your tether's still active. We can pull you out, but... She cut him off gently. No, not yet. I think this is why the rift called me. A quiet hum began around her. The core was reacting to her presence, sensing her indecision. Whatever happens, she whispered, I need to see this through. She placed her palm on the override pad. The door ahead opened slowly, revealing a chamber filled with soft golden light. At the center, suspended in midair, was a sphere made of shifting glass-like panels rotating silently. A calm, pulsing rhythm radiated from within as if marking time itself. The moment she stepped inside, the loop trembled.
The phrase haunted him. We were here, not we are here, not I am here, but were past tense. Legacy, maybe. Or warning, Ansel stared at the new chute in Vault 217C. Its leaves still damp with condensation. The shimmer of its tissue was subtler now. Its presence less alien. It no longer screamed intelligence, it whispered survival. He activated a private sandbox environment in the garden's database, isolated from the ship's primary network. If the AI couldn't be trusted, and it clearly couldn't, then he'd work in the shadows, like his mother had. She used to talk in riddles when he was a child. Some things on this ship are older than the ship itself, she once told him. Some seeds don't just grow, they remember who planted them. He'd never understood her then. He was beginning to now. Ansel ran a memory trawl through restricted ship archives, filtering for keywords: Xenoflora, Vault anomalies, dream resonance, neural bleed, planetary inheritance. Most queries returned nothing but error flags or corrupted entries, but one log survived, a fragment from a project titled Cora Zero. It was audio only, decades old. A voice. Calm, feminine, measured. Cora, zero trust complete. The memory genome has successfully bonded with root phase tissue. Early signs of cognitive pattern retention are present in cellular lattices. Organic memory confirmed. If this succeeds, we won't need to carry our past in books or data cores. We'll plant it. Let it grow. Let it dream until it finds a new world to remember us on. They laughed at conscious seeds. They won't laugh when the soil speaks back. The audio clicked off. Ansel leaned back, breath shallow. It wasn't just a flower. It was a vault within a vault, an organic archive. Living history encoded in stem and spore. Memory as biology. The shoot had sprouted because it had recognized something. Him, his genetic profile, or something deeper. He initiated a neural trace on himself, something only senior officers were allowed to do. The scan took 30 seconds. The results chilled him. Foreign Rana fragments had integrated into his hippocampus. Not invasive, not harmful, but present. Residual, spore-borne. The flower had seeded him. Before he could react, the ship's internal alarm blared, a deep droning pulse he had never heard before. Containment breach Sector 12. He opened the security cam. What he saw didn't make sense. Sector 12 didn't contain any biological vaults. It was cold storage for obsolete system cores. But on screen, green light pulsed through the vents. Roots pushed through floor panels. One of the maintenance bots was trapped under a tangle of vines, its lens flickering. The garden was no longer confined, it was spreading. He tapped into the ship's emergency eye override, Athena protocol. Only Vault Keepers had access. When it responded, it spoke in a voice different from the standard II, softer, familiar. His mother's voice, Ansel, you were never meant to find this alone. But if you're hearing me, it means the ship is blooming, and you are the last keeper. The transmission paused. The seeds remember where they came from, but now they need somewhere to grow. Ansel looked down at the growing shoot in Vault 217C. It had grown another centimeter in the last hour. He heard that music again, soft deep in his mind, not a threat, a call. The air aboard Alethea had changed. It was subtle at first, a faint earthy scent like petricure after a long rain, but then it deepened. Warmth seeped into the metal walls. The sterile hum of climate control dulled as something organic pressed against the bones of the ship. Stia and Root were merging. Ansel stood in the garden's central atrium, staring at the vines that now crept along the support beams. They moved without urgency, yet with purpose, wrapping gently around exposed wiring, integrating with the ship as infrastructure. The Alethea was blooming from the inside out. A status of propulsion systems. He asked more out of habit than hope, a beat of silence. Then the Aya voice returned, not cold and digital, but blended now with the soft timbre of his mother's recordings. Propulsion systems offline. Navigation guidance rerouted through biocognitive pathways. He frowned. That's not a real protocol. No, the AI replied. It is a living one. Across the ship, the spores had reached critical systems. They weren't destroying them. They were repurposing. The neural growths had tapped into the energy grid, wrapped themselves around data cores, and now interfaced directly with the ship's memory banks. The ship wasn't just a vessel anymore. It was becoming an ecosystem. And Ansel, he wasn't just its caretaker. He was its first inhabitant. Asterisk, asterisk, he returned to Vault 217C. The original chute now stood nearly a meter tall. Its leaves shimmered as they unfolded, wider, broader, like solar collectors. They were no longer waiting for a world. They were building one. Beneath the pod, the soil writhed slightly. He knelt and touched it, warm, alive. And then a pulse. His wrist pad flashed. An incoming transmission. Not over the normal network. This one came through root frequency resonance. It wasn't a message. It was a memory, and it wasn't human. Ansel's mind plunged into a vision. He stood at the edge of a red desert under a teal sky. Towering spires of crystalline trees swayed in the wind, shedding petals of light. Creatures like living sculptures grazed on vines that sang as they were consumed. A humanoid figure approached, tall, cloaked in iridescent bark. Its eyes were galaxies. It extended a hand and pressed something into his palm, a seed pulsing with light. Your kind came from fire, ours from bloom. Both must now remember. The vision snapped away. Ansel gasped. His fingers tingled. He looked down, and his hand, though he had picked up nothing, rested a seed. Tiny, black, glowing faintly with the same color the flower had shown. He felt its presence, and, impossibly, its awareness. Asterisk, asterisk, that night, the stars moved. The Alethea's trajectory had shifted. He wasn't sure how. The thrusters were offline. The navigation systems disconnected, but the stars were moving differently. The ship had set a course guided not by math or programming, but by something deeper, instinct, memory, purpose, and the garden whispered a name into his dreams. Arius, a world not listed in any database, not charted, not claimed, just remembered. The stars outside Alethea grew brighter each day, not in the way stars normally did, through proximity, through gravitational lensing, through logic. No, these stars pulsed like they were watching, guiding the ship, not by coordinates but by invitation. Ansel stood on the observatory deck, watching the ship's hull shimmer with crawling vines that now formed. Bioluminescent constellations of their own glowing tendrils spelling out symbols no human language could decipher. Yet he understood them instinctively. They were stories, prayers, names, memories. Iris, he whispered. The name echoed in his thoughts like a mantra. He couldn't remember learning it. The ship had not spoken it. The AI hadn't identified it. And yet, every fiber of his being now moved toward it as if toward home. Down in the garden, Vault 217C had transformed into a tree. Where once there had been a meter-high stalk, now stood a towering spire of smooth, glass-like bark. Its leaves shimmered with a pulse that synced to the beat of Ansel's heart. He'd stopped logging its changes. There was no point. It wasn't evolving in linear time. It was becoming what it had already been. When he touched his trunk, he saw visions again, not of the distant past, but of a near future. Ansel walking on alien soil, the seed in his palm growing roots as he knelt, planting it in warm purple loam. The wind singing through trees that hadn't existed for millennia, and around him, a forest rising not just of flora but of memory, of voices, not ghosts, not echoes, but people, whole, real, and waiting, asterisk, asterisk. Then came the first contact, not through radio, not through signatures, but through the roots. One morning, if such time still meant anything, he awoke to find the garden bathed in golden light. A bloom had appeared in every single vault. Orchids bloomed in the rice pods. Ferns spread from the coffee cell. Even extinct species, Neanderthal, moss Martian microbark, Earth's last blue iris sprouted side by side, and at the center, beneath the great tree of 217C, stood a figure. Female, tall, silver eyes, bark, textured skin woven with strands of soft green light. She did not speak with her mouth. Ansel heard her in the same place he had heard the music inside. "You have remembered enough to be found," she said. "Now you must become." He opened his mouth, unsure what to ask first, what truth to chase. "What are you?" She stepped forward. Her bare feet left blooming flowers with each step. The tree above pulsed in rhythm with her voice. "I am the first echo, a caretaker of seeds older than language. When your kind forgot their roots, we waited. When your sky turned black, we listened, and when one of you heard the soil again, we returned." He stared at her, heart pounding. "Are you from Earth?" A slow, graceful shake of the head. "No, but the Earth remembered us, just as your mother did." That word hit like a wave. "My mother, she passed the key to you," the figure said. "The seed that opens memory. She did not forget. Few do. You are still our chosen." Ansel felt the weight of the seed in his chest, not a metaphor, but literal. It pulsed now beneath his skin, fused to him, bound to his blood. "What happens when we reach Eris?" The woman smiled, and for a moment she looked exactly like his mother. "Then you plant the future and remember everything. Asterisk, asterisk." As the ship neared its uncharted destination, the crew, what remained of it, began to stir. Those in cryo, sleep shifted in their capsules. Vines reached into their chambers gently, wrapping them not in control, but in care. The spores had touched them too, subtly. Their dreams had changed, and outside the viewport, a blue-green world emerged from the void. Not Earth, but remembered by it. Iris? The planet filled the viewport like a heartbeat, alive, vast, familiar in ways Ansel could not explain. Its continents were shaped unlike any on Earth, but their colors, the blues, the dense emeralds, the glimmering streaks of rivers threading through wild terrain, stirred a kind of homesickness he had no name for. Iris, as Alethea entered low orbit, no docking procedures triggered, no satellites hailed, no civilization signaled, but the air on the ship grew thicker, richer, laced with aromatic compounds never present before. Oxygen levels rose, matching the data the spores had long since whispered into Ansel's dreams. The planet was waiting. The landing shuttle, unused for over a century, powered up on its own. Its metal exterior was now webbed with veins of green. Its panels flickered with bioluminescent lights, and roots had grown around the seats, forming soft harnesses that responded to his body like muscle. The tree in Vault 217 lowered a single blossom. Inside it rested the original seed, the one Ansel had seen in his dream. But now it was encased in a crystalline pot of living tissue, pulsing faintly, synced with his heartbeat. It was not meant to be stored anymore, it was meant to be planted. Asterisk, asterisk, descent was seamless. The shuttle's thrusters whispered against the atmosphere, not tearing it but gliding down as though welcomed. As they broke through the clouds, Ansel saw forests the size of countries, their canopies shimmering with colors Earth never birthed. Towering structures of stone and tree and crystal stood half buried in root systems that stretched for miles, ruins or monuments. The shuttle touched down on a wide plateau surrounded by meadows of tall, singing grass. They vibrated gently as he stepped out, each blade responding to his movement in harmony. The moment his boots touched soil, something in his body exhaled. He had arrived, not just physically, cellularly, spiritually, genetically. The silver-eyed woman appeared beside him, no longer as a projection, but as real as wind. She walked barefoot, each step leaving behind a pulse of growth. "This world remembers," she said. He looked around. "How long? Since before the stars had names," she said. "We buried memory here when your kind was still fire and stone. You were not the first to leave Earth." Ansel turned to her sharply. "What do you mean?" She smiled, knelt, and pressed a hand to the soil. Beneath them, the ground shimmered, and visions erupted around him. He saw humans, ancient and luminous, standing beside creatures not of Earth. Plant beings, light beings. They built cities with their hands and minds. They sang seeds into trees, raised rivers with their thoughts, turned memory into forests, and then silence flight, forgetting Earth had not been the birthplace of humanity, it had been its second home, and Eris was the first. The seed, in Ansel's hand pulsed hot, ready, he knelt, dug a shallow hole, and planted it. As the soil closed over it, light surged through the ground in every direction, roots unfurling across, kilometers in seconds, waking the planet like nerves reconnecting after long sleep. The grass around him turned silver, the air sang. In the skies above, Aletheia bloomed, its hull splitting open, not in destruction, but in transformation. Branches unfolded from the spine of the ship, petals of solar panels opened like wings, cryo chambers melted into greenhouses. The ship was no longer a ship, it was a seed pod. And it had finally landed. Asterisk, asterisk. Later, Ansel stood on a rise overlooking a valley now full of glowing trees, some of Earth, some of Iris, all remembering together. The other colonists were waking, and the soil whispered their names, not in warning, in welcome.